So recently, Richard Dawkins had a bit of a chat with Piers Morgan, and I thought it was pretty interesting, mostly because I haven't seen Richard Dawkins in a while. I mean, I'm sure it's mostly because I've been away from the internet, but still. I always found Richard Dawkins have the most refreshing arguments, and although I wouldn't necessarily use the same arguments as he would, it was always great seeing the new ways that he can describe something much better than I ever could. So we're going to look at this guy's response to a segment of what Richard Dawkins said, and we're going to respond to him. So basically an Inception response video. Yep, okay, let's go.
We are a tiny, tiny dot in the universe, right?
Exactly. We are tiny.
So you don't know what else is out there, really, other than what scientists have already established?
No, I think it's highly likely that there are other beings out there which are much cleverer than we are. Superhuman, not supernatural, but superhuman. And I would love to meet them.
Okay, you see, I mean, if you watch this carefully, I thought this was actually very good strategy from Richard Dawkins. And this is from someone who's written a book about him and the New Atheists. I've written a book called The Scientific Delusions of the New Atheists. So someone who's read all of his works, practically.
Okay, well, you certainly are a dedicated follower then, so much so that you've written a book about him, it seems. I don't think I can bring myself to follow anyone that closely, much less someone I disagree with, but I'd be honored if someone wrote a book about me, so yeah.
But and I've seen his strategy in his debates. I have seen and known this is a good strategy from Richard Dawkins. I have to give him credit. Because Piers Morgan asked him a question which related, although not explicitly, to the fine-tuning of the universe.
Really? Where was the fine-tuning of the universe mentioned? All that was talked about in your clip was, oh, we're tiny in the universe, and then Richard Dawkins said, yep, and I believe it's highly likely there are other beings out there. Where was the fine-tuning mentioned? Surely you didn't just make it up to find an excuse to talk about it, because last I checked, we're small in the universe does not equate to the universe is fine-tuned. Although if you want to make that argument now, I've got plenty to say about it.
Richard Dawkins, as well as Christopher Hitchens and many of the new atheists, are fully aware of the difficulty of the task of responding to this argument. It's on the record. In fact, Richard Dawkins himself in the book The God Delusion refers to it as the Goldilocks zone. He refers to it himself.
I don't know where he got the impression that Richard Dawkins has trouble answering this question. I mean, sure, it's not entirely in his field since he's a biologist, but I've seen enough of his debates and talks to know that he has a good answer to it. But that being said, regardless of what he says, there are a number of ways to actually answer the argument of fine-tuning. Of course, it depends on which fine-tuning aspect they're trying to use, such as constants or Goldilocks zones, which by the way is a scientific term, not one that was invented by profound atheists, mind you. Let's take constants for example, which is used quite often as an argument for creation. Certain constants require to be the same, and if it changes slightly, then it could cause turmoil in the universe, which sounds like a convincing argument. But the thing is, we don't know enough about the hypothetical universe in which constants are different, and as a result, making that claim requires a lot of unproven assumptions. For example, if a constant changed, what's to say that the laws revolving that constant doesn't change either? Why do you assume that physical laws have to be the way it is? What's to say that life couldn't have come about through an entire overhaul of such constants and laws so that it can create an alternative but working condition? I'm not saying that that is necessarily the case, but you cannot actually claim that this version of the universe is the only one that works, and that's where the point is. We don't have multiple universes to observe. We don't have data of 1,000 other universes to compare. We only have this one, and therefore you cannot make those rash assumptions. Alright, that was a pretty simplified answer. Let's move on.
Instead, he just diverts the entire discussion. I find it quite intelligent strategically.
Okay, but that would only be the case if they actually talked about the fine-tuning of the universe, which from the clip you showed us, that certainly was not the case.
But let me rephrase the question in a way which maybe the viewers will understand. Okay, number one, whether or not they're humans or superhumans, because he started talking about superhumans, Richard Dawkins. Whether or not there's humans or superhumans or life, animal life or human life, whatever life form there is, my question is as follows. You have a universe, correct? No one's going to say no. Yes, you have a universe.
This is how I know the argument isn't intelligent at all. In a field so complex such as the origin or conditions of the universe, if your premise starts off with something so basic such as a universe exists, then it's probably too small-brained for my time.
Yes? Okay, yeah, we have a universe. Is he going to deny? Is Richard Dawkins gonna deny? No, he's not. Is Christopher? Is he gonna deny? No. We have a universe. Yes. We have life in the universe. Yes. Whether it's human life or superhuman life or animal life. Okay, fine. There are laws in the universe which are consistent, which allow continually for life to exist in the universe.
No, absolutely not. The laws don't, quote, allow us to exist, it just happens to be there. And life, as well as everything else in the universe, has to obey those laws. But laws can be sort of a misnomer here because it implies that it was determined externally, but that's actually not the case. Of course, we use, quote, laws in science, but for this argument here, the better word would probably be properties. There are properties in the universe in which everything inside the universe has to follow, and it just so happened that a tiny part of the universe, the Earth, life came about while also following the properties of the universe. That's it. The universe properties didn't, quote, allow us to be here, we just are here. If the universe had different laws or different properties, there's no way to say that life couldn't have formed, because life could look like a magnitude of different things. As long as it's obeying whatever properties of the universe that exists, there's no saying it's impossible. So when you say these laws, quote, allow life to exist, that's completely misleading.
Say that again, just say it again. There are laws in the universe which consistently allow for human or any kind of life to exist in the universe. Is that a fact? Yes, it is a fact.
When you say allow life, it sounds like the universe was created for the purpose of having life in the universe, which is wrong. But if you said allow life as in the universe just exists and life happens to be in the universe, then that's fine. But you're treading on dangerous waters with your word choices here.
What is the explanation of this? That's my question, Richard Dawkins. He's going to say, I don't know, and you don't know, and we don't know. No, I'm going to say that's not an answer. That is you purporting that I don't know anything.
But that's actually the correct answer. No one knows. Not me, not you, not anyone. You have to know when you say you don't know. Be honest about what we don't know so that we can make strides to discover that. We might know in the future, we might never know, but the point is we don't know right now. Let's apply this to a hypothetical example to prove the point. Let's say a new disease came out of nowhere. We'll call it disease A. We've never seen it before and we know nothing about it other than it kills people. So let's try to find some information about it. In this case, we want to ask, how does this disease kill people? Now, at this moment in time, we don't know what it is, so it's important to say we don't know and then make strides to discover what it is that we want to know. But instead, if there was this crazy guy next to the scientist shouting, I know where this disease came from. It came from a quantum particle that is spread around from playing too much League of Legends amongst people older than 50 years old, and the only way to cure it is to do a handstand for 15 minutes. You can see why that's ridiculous and why we wouldn't believe him. If we did believe them, we'd be making treatments and medications for disease A without actually going out of our way to find out how it kills people. That's why in science it's important to remain humble. Admit when we don't know something and then go find out. Same idea applies to the universe. How is it that life exists under the properties of the universe, you say? Well, we don't know, so we go find out. We don't just go around listening to random people's claims. You're here claiming that Allah created the universe. A Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, and Shinto would all have different claims. Why should we trust any of them? Instead, we admit we don't know, and then we do actual science to find out. That's the scientific method.
The question is, what is the best explanation for this? What is the best explanation for the fact that the conditions of the universe continually allow life to exist within it? What's the best explanation for that?
Okay, so you've changed your question. Asking about what the best explanation is completely different than just asking for the answer. But the best explanation is not often the most accurate since we discover more things as evidence comes up and as science makes progress. But if you really want an answer, according to the science, the current best explanation is that it just happened this way. The universe was formed along with its properties and life just happened to come about within the properties of the universe. The exact mechanisms are still being worked out, of course, but regardless, the explanation is not that God did it. It's simply not, I'm sorry.
Think about it for a second. I'm not going to give you the answer. You're clever enough to think about it. Think about it.
Yes, I thought about it, and the answer isn't God.
Is the best explanation that it came from nothing, which Piers Morgan correctly identified as something really unintelligible. Nothingness doesn't really, there's no evidence that it exists in the real world in the first place.
Oh, really? You want to talk about evidence? You dismissing something for not having enough evidence? How laughable is that? That being said, nothing is not actually nothing. It's mostly religious people who use the word nothing because they don't have a proper understanding of what it is. But rather, there are theoretical physicists working on what was before the universe. And let me tell you, it's a lot more than nothing. Things like negative energy or virtual particles are technically nothing, but are not truly nothing in a colloquial sense.
What we're proposing is that laws come from a lawmaker, an intelligent one at that, one with knowledge, one with the ability to change the situation. Because had that not been the case, the situation would not have been changed. It's a fine, simple answer to a very simple question.
No, it absolutely is not a simple question, nor does it a simple answer. Where did this God come from? What form did he take? How did his powers come about? What was there before he created the universe? Why did he make the universe this way? And of course, how does his powers work? How does it interact with these physical properties and laws that allow for the creation of everything in the universe? What laws exist outside of the physical laws that allow him to manipulate things to create a universe? As soon as you insert a God into the equation, the problem gets much more complex. You're sitting there being content with whatever your religion teaches you. You don't go beyond and think about these questions I just listed above. You're satisfied with leaving all these explanations to God done it, and that's why religion can never be compatible with science. While science is trying to discover more, learn more about the universe, ask meaningful questions about the universe, you're here saying, God did it, all the answers are in this book, that's it. While we're here trying to make progress, you're content with it. Well, I'm sorry, but not only is there absolutely no evidence for your religion, but even if it were true, we scientists wouldn't be satisfied. Science is all about curiosity and discovering the truth, and we'll never let you religious nutjobs take that away from us and from humanity.